welcome back to the podcast, episode 3. We're going to be discussing some SJV sports that have taken place so far this season, and we'll highlight some of the baseball and softball action from this past week and look ahead to some of the big games that are taking place next week. And we're also happy to have White Pigeon golf coach Mark Olsen and his two sons Riley and Jordan on today. They're the top 2 players for the Chiefs this year, and that name is probably familiar to a lot of area golf enthusiasts. Mark has been the coach there for quite some time, but he also had older sons Chase and Nick Olsen, who were star players for the Chiefs within the last 7 to 8 years too. So the family tradition continues, and the last of the brothers are filtering through the program right now. So we're happy to have them on, and we'll talk to them in a little bit. Right now, Brian's going to take us through some of the action that happened this last week in the SJV.
All right, so in baseball, Centerville and Mendon got together. Sounded like they had a really kind of hotly contested doubleheader. In the SJV, where there's 2 sets of doubleheaders in a round-robin situation, kind of almost like a college baseball situation, some of these return doubleheaders I could imagine get a little bit more heated, a lot more fun to watch in the second time through. But Centerville defeated Mendon 6-5, and then their second game was suspended due to darkness, with Mendon leading 4-1. Bronson swept White Pigeon earlier in the week, so that sets up this coming Tuesday what should be a really entertaining doubleheader. Mendon at Bronson. It's 5-1 Mendon at 7-3 Bronson overall right now in the season. That's Tuesday at Bronson. And in softball, Mendon swept through Centerville, and Bronson also swept White Pigeon. So again, that sets up a pretty interesting and should be a pretty competitive early season doubleheader with Mendon at Bronson also on Tuesday. Bronson's makeup games with Centerville will also take place this Thursday at the varsity level. Bronson at Centerville this Thursday. In track, Centerville split with Bronson. The girls won and the boys lost. And Mendon swept both events against the Chiefs on the boys and the girls side. And again, Mendon at Bronson, probably the highlight as far as a spring sports coming up on Tuesday. Varsity baseball and softball doubleheader at Bronson. Golf, White Pigeon, leading into our interview, won the county tournament. I believe 4 of their players were in the top 10. Is that correct?
Yes.
So that's a major accomplishment. Always, coming from a smaller school, the Chiefs probably don't get many opportunities to go against bigger schools. In the smaller schools, you always have a chip on your shoulder. Sturgis usually plays Centerville and Pigeon, some of those schools in other sports, and it's always almost like a no-win situation in some sports when you play, because as the bigger school, you walk in and you're expected to win, and if you lose, Pigeon in golf, has been great for years. When I was at Glen Oaks in 2004, 2005, the old SJV was great at golf. Schoolcraft won the state title. Coach Olsen's couple of their sons were great. Bronson was competitive then. So, as far as those individual sports, sometimes like tennis, like golf, like bowling, it's not uncommon for the smaller schools to be able to compete and defeat bigger schools along the way, and that's what happened yesterday at Saguenay.
Yeah, those are the sports that can be, the great equalizers, I guess. And White Pigeons had a strong program for a long time. A couple years there where they kind of dropped out of the spotlight a little bit, but for the most part, over a decade of really solid golf being played there, and they've won all 5 SJV Jamborees so far. So that's over. That race is done. You can go ahead and crown them the last SJV champs before they move to this new BCS league. But so we'll talk to them a little bit about how the season's going, and we'll get into some more track and field stuff as we move forward. The early going in the spring, kind of typical to at the beginning of each sports season. It's hard to get every coach on board to get those results, and we're missing some results. We've done our best to track them down, but we didn't want to go into too much detail about track and field not having all the stuff in front of us. But as we get a little bit closer to regionals and stuff like that, we'll be sure to highlight a lot more track and field athletes. We've got a lot of great ones here in the county. So And of course, we'd like to thank our sponsors at joeinsider.com that make the website possible and this podcast possible. And we'd like to recognize the Sturgis Center for Health and Wellness. You ought to check them out if you've got school-aged children that need athletic physicals. They provide them for $35, and it's a walk-in clinic. No appointments are necessary, so go check out Dr. Robertson and his crew, the fine folks there at the Sturgis Center for Health and Wellness. We thank you for being a part of joeinsider.com. Again, I'm Wes Morgan here with Brian Beebe, and since we're going to be talking a little bit of golf today, we are not good golfers, so we ought to have some interesting stories. I'm trying to think of some things that have happened to me on the golf course that probably were not supposed to happen. What about you, Beebe? Anything come to mind?
Well, I mean, I'm getting better. I am aggressively mediocre at golf right now, I would say. In coaching my JV, I coached JV for 2 years here at Sturgis, and JV golf is a lot like any JV sport where you see it all. Any rule. I learned a lot of rules about golf watching our kids bend and break and massage, and other kids in other schools massage many rules.
Did the foot wedge come out in
No,
competition?
the foot wedge didn't come out. I will say that one of my players was using range balls at one point that they found on the course. By the way, that is illegal, just for the record. You can't do that. You can only play the balls you begin with in the day in your bag. That's a true story, and that gentleman knows it. I'm not gonna put him on blast right now. My best JV golf story, we were at Island Hills my second year. We were waiting for a group. I just happened to be on the tee box with one of my kids. We were playing Three Rivers. And one of the Three Rivers teammates was, you're swinging, like Ryan Braun did last night to one of his Brewers teammates, kind of warming up. We're in the middle of the round. He brought his driver back on the tee box just before practice swing and absolutely smoked his teammate in the face. I mean, It was, if I could put the in the face drop here from Wedding Crashers, I would. It was so amazing. And the kid was instant blood. And his parents were watching. And his parents were the calmest two adults I've ever seen in my life. They were amazing. The kid comes up and just drops to a knee. Doesn't swear, doesn't make a big deal out of it. I've never seen anything like it. He had every right to do anything he wanted to do at that point in his life, and he took it like a champ. And I saw him the next week at another thing, and he was great. He still physically wasn't 100%. He had a couple of dentist appointments in his future, but it was one of the most amazing things I've ever seen on a golf course.
Oh man, nothing in my experience that grisly, but. I have seen a lot of pain. My Uncle Dennis, very large man. I'm not going to embarrass him and throw out the actual weight out there, but he's a large man, an athletic large man. I think I was in the 8th grade or 9th grade golfing with him and my father one day at an area course, and we had a foursome that was just up on us all day. And finally, they took it to the next level and didn't even wait for us to hit our second shots and just started driving into us. And one guy just hit the drive of his lifetime and dropped Dennis like a dead moose. I mean, right there in the middle of the fairway, square in the back, a very large man and a very large thud on the short grass of the fairway. And he got right back up and finished the round. But he had by the end of the day, a basketball-sized welt on his back. And I've also seen at a church outing one time, someone take a hill a little too quickly in a gas-powered cart and dump it in the lake. So I've seen a few things, but not a lot of good golf. I've seen a lot of things other than good golf on the golf course when I'm involved. But we've got, we've got the Olsen family. They'll tell us a little bit about good golf. Head coach at White Pigeon for the varsity golf team, Mark Olsen, and his sons Riley and Jordan. Thanks for joining us today and classing up our little clown show that we do every Sunday. You guys had a big week. We want to get to all the matches and what happened at the county tournament, but we also want to talk about the season as a whole and kind of White Pigeon golf over the course of the years with Mr. Olsen here at the helm. You've had two older brothers go through the program too. It seems like that name is synonymous with White Pigeon golf. So we're running out of kids here now, Mark. What happens when these guys graduate?
Retirement.
Well-deserved retirement.
Yeah.
We were talking off the air a little bit, but remind us, how long have you been coaching the varsity program there?
I started head coach in 2005.
Did you envision staying this long, or did you know that all your boys were going to end up probably playing, and you wanted to see that through? Was that the plan?
That was the original plan. 2 years ago, after dealing with 2 years of kids not caring about golf, I told my wife that I was done, and she said they're not going to like that. And I told the kids that I was done, and they didn't like that, and basically said, we want you to continue. So I bit the bullet and took on the next few years. But it was really rough for a couple of years without any of the kids on the team, and it was just didn't seem worth it. But now we've got a really good group of kids, and it is worth it again. So I'm happy to be there.
You see coaches often coaching their own children, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I know I played for my dad in a couple sports, not varsity level, younger age. It didn't work out too well. What has worked with your family dynamic? I mean, I guess it helps that you can be honest with the guys. They kind of know what to expect from you and vice versa. But sometimes that doesn't work so well.
Well, I try really hard not to even think of them as my kids out there. I try to treat everybody, fairly and as individuals, because everybody responds differently to instruction and criticism, which is going to come with the territory. Every once in a while, I do let loose with a little fatherly advice, and we had a heart-to-heart with Jordan yesterday that was more of a father-son deal than a coach deal, and it was necessary. So sometimes it just is both hats, but I try to keep it just coach.
I wanted to ask you, Jordan, when he told me yesterday that you had a heart-to-heart, I kind of knew what that meant.
Yeah.
I wanted to get from your perspective, what are those heart-to-hearts like? I mean, is it kind of just a kick in the rear, say, hey, get your head straight, and it works for you?
They're not fun. They're pretty much just I don't know. They're not fun at all.
But they're effective.
Yeah, definitely.
Yesterday you got off to a rough start and then turned it around.
2 over through 15.
You were 6 over
through 3.
Through 3.
Yeah, through the first. You had a double and a triple.
Yep.
Early on with a bogey.
Mm-hmm.
We talked a little bit yesterday, and it was in the story at joeinsider.com, but just talk about your round yesterday and how you were able to kind of get back on track.
Yeah, I just tried to play my game, as my dad said, and just didn't do anything crazy and just kept it in the fairway and didn't do anything stupid and just played smart.
If we didn't preface that was the county tournament at Sauganash that White Pigeon won. For the first time in 5 years. Sturgis had it for 4 straight years, and you guys took it back. And another big reason, other than Jordan's round of 80 yesterday, Riley, the way Riley's been playing all year long, and probably on his way to an MVP in the St. Joe Valley. Can you talk about your season so far, and especially the week you've had in particular?
Yeah, I didn't start off the best. I wasn't happy with the way I started. I started out at St. Joe, and of course it's tough if you're not doing the right things, and I wasn't. And also it's been so early in the season and not enough time outdoors to practice short game. And all week, last week when I was struggling, I was just like, I'm just gonna work on short game because that's the issue. And I did that and came out to Klinger and was 1 under through 7 and had 2 doubles. But that was like, here we go, like I can do this, like I can post these numbers. And then the next day, came out in 30-mile-per-hour wind. I was like, oh boy, this is gonna be tough. Never played the course. Came out and shot 2 over 38. That was a huge motivation boost going into the week. And then showed up to Island Hills and did the same thing and just had 1 bad hole, And I'm starting to feel confident, consistent, like know what I'm doing out there, and it feels good. And going into Saturday, I was beyond confident. Like I knew good things were gonna happen that day.
Coach, my question: we talked last week. Our whole podcast really was centered on the issues with the conference realignment around here. And golf is unique in that obviously every team's home course brings a unique set of advantages, disadvantages. What is it like being in a smaller league where you don't really get a rotation of a lot of different courses?
And does that ever play a role in your scheduling or your, as we get closer to the postseason, how many practice rounds you get in at different courses or anything like that?
I kind of do things a little bit different than most coaches, I think. I don't schedule a full schedule. Mm-hmm. I try to keep it right around 12, maybe 13. But my view is the league is important, but it's not a serious goal of ours. County is beginning to be a serious goal. Districts, regionals, and state, those are the goals that White Pigeon Golf shoots for. At the end of the year, we have a lot of practice time, and that's where you really hone in on what you need to fix. So I figure, we'll see a lot of different courses, but just being able to get practice time at the end of the year when our serious goals come up gives us an advantage. And playing Klinger Lake is, it's perfect to learn how to play any kind of course because there's enough different things out there to really make it a solid learning experience.
Sure. And for the people who just listening and don't know, a full varsity golf schedule is how many matches? 16. And so with the St. Joe Valley being so small, you have a unique luxury that you really can schedule to your ramifications, to your wants and needs, especially with such a bad spring. You can kind of maybe pick up one or two later matches if necessary because you have that wiggle room.
Right.
Another question is, individual sports are so unique in high school, bowling, tennis, golf, in that there's really limited spectator interaction. It's just kind of the kids out there doing their thing with, quite frankly, very limited coach interaction, especially in bowling and in golf. As you approach days like Saturday, where it's a big day, from a coaching perspective, what are your goals? Do you want to see every kid? Do you try to follow a kid? What do you do as a coach going into that day?
It's going to sound bad, kind of, but I've got 4 kids that really are the nucleus of the team, and their scores have been the scores every match. So I stay close to those 4. I make an effort to get to the 5, 6 guys, but my focus is on 2, 3, 4. I leave Riley alone for the most part. I leave Jordan alone once we get him on track, and then I focus on kind of seeing how Andrew and Christian are going to do. And I don't coach much during the round because you just support, pat them on the back, tell them, we're okay, keep your head up, keep, fighting for each stroke, and we'll deal with the technical stuff later.
Sure. And even a great program like yours, it's funny to think about in golf that you are literally leaving kids alone, where that's such a different mindset from like a baseball coach who kind of manages pitching in a game, or a football coach managing play calling. Golf is such a unique sport, and tennis is a lot like that in that you really know who you're coaching and how often you need to follow them or not even be around them.
Yeah. And, being kind of the elder statesman in the area of golf coaches, they all know what I have talked about, what I want my kids to do for years. So I had 2 or 3 coaches yesterday saying, one of your guys hit a driver on 5 and it went out of bounds. And I'm like, okay. And same thing on 4 and the same thing on 18. I'm like, okay. So I see the kid at the end of the round. I go, so how did we do on 4, 5, and 18? Not very good. And I said, driver doesn't work. We talked about that. Break it into 2 pieces and hit 150 yards and you're safe. And so I've got spies out there and the kids don't know. So
what's when I was talking to Jordan after the round yesterday, and Riley mentioned this too, making the state finals as a team. It's been a while since that's happened. Riley made it last year, and you were talking about the feeling of being out there kind of on your own and how you'd like to experience it with the team. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I guess starting from when I was little, I always saw my brothers go as a team. So that's all I thought about state. You go as a team, you stay in the hotel, you have pizza parties, you swim and goof around and stay up and have some fun. And then you get serious the next day for golf, obviously. But when you go as an individual, you're there alone. You're on the range alone. All the teams are out there hitting balls, laughing, joking around, relaxing. And you're over there alone, tensing up, trying to figure out how am I going to play decent to make a statement alone, not with a group of people. It's just a completely different feeling. Being with a group of people is much better than being alone at anything.
And you're with those guys all year long, and then suddenly,
Yeah, I mean they're your close friends for those 4 or 5 months, maybe even the rest of your life. That's what a team is.
with this group, I mean, it does seem like your top 4 guys. I mean, it's happened already. I think have all 4 led the team at some point this year, or there have been 3 different
3.
So,
Yeah.
but still,
And then
that
tied for first.
2 in the league matches, and then Jordan's been the leader for the 18-hole events. And Andrew is right there. He's 1-2 strokes away, and he's playing very well. But back to the state finals as an individual, I think it might have been a little bit of a miserable time for Riley because the coach was there the whole time. And it might have been Dad part of the time. So
that's the one time a year you do get a lot of coaching.
It just happened to work
one-on-one
out.
attention. And you got Christian Ryal Shoop in the mix there too. I think he led you guys recently at one of the SJV jamborees. As a coach, obviously you're searching for that day, especially in the postseason, where they all put it together, they all shoot low, and that's a difficult thing to do in a sport like golf. How many times looking back over the years have you had the team come together and you saw every single guy, maybe not shoot a career best or something, but really show up all together?
the 2009 state finals, we finished 306, 302, 304 for 606. And we had kids shoot their career best at the state finals. All 5, I think 5 kids shot their career best
Wow.
in one of those days. So that was probably the absolute pinnacle of, having your best at the same time. And then the week before the regionals, we had a 307 or something, and that was a pretty spectacular day too. So they came together at the right time and peaked at the right time. Unfortunately, we ran into Kalamazoo Hackett, who also was peaking at the right time, and if we were in another division, we'd have been state champs. But Division 4 was the toughest division that year.
Riley, Jordan, for somebody out there who considers 100 a good score, give somebody listening to this one tip they need to work on tomorrow. What's one thing that you guys have learned that you've picked up from older brothers, from your dad? Give somebody out there one thing to work on tomorrow.
I think short game, and you just really got to practice your short game. Like, it doesn't matter how good you hit the ball, you still get up and down for par, and that's fine.
I would probably say slow down. Think about where you want the ball to go, and your body will help it get there. If you take your time a little bit more, it helps extremely.
Golf is a game of misses. That's probably the best way to put it. You're going to miss putts, you're going to miss shots, but there are such a thing as a good miss in golf. And the more you learn that, I think, as a high school player and growing up in the game of golf. I did not grow up with golf. I took it up as an adult, and I struggled with the concept of a good miss. And so I think that when I watched golf, when I covered it for the Gazette and for the Muskegon Chronicle, it was amazing to watch kids who really had a plan, like young, like freshmen, sophomores, who already have that concept built in of, okay, if I miss this shot, where's my miss at? And that probably comes with familiarity with the course. I assume, especially Klinger, where there are some places where there are bad misses. And you have to be comfortable with that good miss. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you have to plan out every shot. And sometimes they don't go as you plan, but as long as you think about it, more times than not, you're going to have that plan go through, or a little off miss. And nothing terrible, though.
Mm-hmm.
You said you struggled with just misses. I struggle when I take the bag out of the trunk all the way to the time it goes back in the trunk. But it's a game I grew up with, but it's one I'll struggle at for the rest of my life. But I'm hooked on it. You guys growing up, brothers. I mean, what was it like? You had older brothers. Nick and Chase are how much older than you?
Chase is 10 years older.
Nick is.
Nick's 10 years older, and Chase is 7.
So Jordan, do you even remember chasing them around with, when a club is as tall as you? Were you trying to do what your older brothers were doing?
I mean, I tried, but they were so good. I mean, it was tough to compete with them. But
what about you, Riley? I mean, was it something you wanted to emulate? Did you all have the bug?
Yeah, I mean, there's in a little scrapbook of ours, there's a scorecard that says it's like September 10th or something, 2001, my first par. is written down, and Chase and Nick and Dad are on the scorecard. And it's just something like little stuff like that. Like we always I would golf with them, and even when Jordan was too little to play, even he'd be in the golf cart flying out of it with his Batman cape on. They had little stuff like that. We were always on a course, always with Nick and Chase, and we definitely couldn't keep up because they were just much older and much just better and different. And there was times where we'd be stuck at the course for 10 hours, crying to go home, and they'd be, no, we got to chip more. Hit some more putts. Work on your 5-footers. We're 6. That's what it was like always. When we were
So
little.
that's the bond. I mean, I know there are other things. You're a family and you have other things you share together and enjoy. But that's a huge bond for this family.
Yeah, I mean, golf is probably the huge bond. Like when we're all around, we definitely get around to golfing no matter what. Last Saturday, everyone was around. We got up at 8 in the morning to go play. It was freezing. I mean, Under Armour hand warmer. I mean, that's just to play a round, just a friendly round.
Has anybody challenged the Olsen family?
No.
Like, has any foursome been like, we want to play those guys?
We have done the Fox 28, the
Right.
2 on 2 channel. We've done that, and Dad and Chase beat them, and then we tied them. But that's the only thing we've ever done as a challenge. No one's ever. That'd be awesome.
That doesn't surprise me
That'd be cool.
that hasn't happened. Well, there were a lot of things I think we wanted to cover, but we didn't want to keep you all day. So we're happy you made the trip over here to do this, and wish you the best of luck rest of the season, and look forward to seeing how you guys do.
Thanks for having us.
We're hoping to get to the state finals, and if we do that, then the season will be successful.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, thank you.